Our next speaker, I met him because we have something in common. We have both been elected, we have a very stupid title in common. We both have been elected cultural and creative pilots of Germany. So that was when we met together, and then we found quickly out we have much, much more in common than this stupid title. So I want to present you my good friend Thorsten Bauer.
Hello, everybody. Yes, Ludger, thank you for having me here again. Always a pleasure, and I really enjoy Beyond. Not only because of this high density of super interesting talks and exhibitions, but also I kind of have the tradition to add something beyond my usual presentations in Beyond Festival. And this is what I try to do this year also. I basically come from media arts, and I'm gonna introduce you to a few works I've done the past 10 years with my company Urban Screen. And from there on, in the second half of the talk, I'm gonna introduce you to, let's say, some further ideas of what I think design and media art can provide even in a post-capitalistic society, or how the relationship could be. Anyway, and everything is kind of evolving from the starting point of being an artist. So every statement I'm gonna place today is not a scientific one, it's a very subjective one coming out of the subjective view of an artist. So don't get mistaken there, I'm just spreading seeds here, right? Okay, to start with the work. So Urban Screen had been kind of the pioneers the last 10 years or 15 years almost in projection mapping. In the very beginning, I invented this technique. Of course, other groups at the same time, how it is in the world, invented the same technique for them, but didn't copycat it. From the first beginnings of projection mapping, we had and tried to develop this technique in an artistical form, and also to adapt this to certain other genres. And the basic idea was always to storytell, but not like a random or our story, to more enhance the architecture by its own story, to kind of create dynamic architectures that are getting from an object to a storytelling subject. As you can see here, for example, the Kunsthaus in Hamburg is telling its own story. There are hand drawings of the first architectural poses involved into this scenery. We stayed kind of experimental, meaning also that we try to adapt our techniques and knowledge into other genres. This is an opera we staged from Mozart, where we not only had the opportunity to create the video, but also the whole stage design. So this was a very interesting thing to do, because all the three-dimensional work that we could do with this stage brought us to new ideas and in the third dimension, basically. But also integrating theater into our work was a main thing. So we ever tried to combine real actors with virtual graphics, so that this topic of analog and digital is in many layers interwoven into our work. As you can see here, this is like a picture out of like 6 layers, mostly digital, but the actor is a real-life person that we filmed in the studio. And with this approach and the being early bird, it had been quite a successful journey. So we are around the world with our works. This is an installation from Texas University, Houston University, Rice University in Houston, Texas, and was quite an amazing time. Nevertheless, we tried to exceed this idea of projection mapping into a way that we also started sculpturing our own surfaces, meaning not reacting on an architecture, but perceiving this and inventing these wall sculptures that are kind of a hybrid art form that is between projection mapping and sculpturing, and try to find a nice middle point path there that I would consider kind of hybrid, a hybrid augmented sculpture or something. This was one of my most favorite works, because it was very de-accelerated and contemplative. It was the Gasometer Oberhausen, a 100-meter high gas tank, which we first time covered with projection mapping. Very, very reduced work. I love that. And yeah, that's about like some highlights from the last 13 years, I think, this journey had gone. So. Nowadays, we are also doing, with Urban Screen, we're also doing some marketing issues, as in every stage of a company, you have to care about the company stuff also, but still try to stay, even in this brand communication stuff, try to stay innovative. So this is a thing we invented, a kind of virtual Howdy Lucas. You maybe know that's from the fairs, where you have like this big hammer and you hammer on this thing, and then the virtual Howdy Lucas goes up until the whole 140 meters of the Fernsehturm in Köln. And so Telekom bought this idea together with a big advertising company, and we had a system arranged where Köln could play against Düsseldorf simultaneously, and the both cities kind of played Howdy Lucas in a kind of game together. Interesting, and also a little bit money also, of course, for us. 3 years ago, I maybe come to this point later, I made a crucial decision for myself, so I stepped out of the managing director role in my own company, and a little bit aside. I still own the company, but from that point on, I developed certain stuff on my own. I am here and talking about ideas that I developed during that time, and it gives me the artistical and intellectual freedom again to also stand here. But still, I work in my company, but not as in the operational level so much. So one of the ideas, I'm gonna present a few videos to you that I try to extract some interesting ideas I found in resuming our work in the last days. So kind of this talk is a little bit of the an extract of the process so far, looking back and try to understand what we actually had done there. So this is a research study we did. From time to time, we took a pause from the continuous run of doing installations and doing some technical research. And the basic idea on that was, in that time, these moving head projectors came on the market. Moving head projectors, meaning a projector that is like in X and Y angle, and it could move around space, as you just saw there. And we had the idea, okay, can we arrange a projection mapping that is where the picture is still ortsfest, you would say in Germany, but the moving head is moving. So that this is why it's called searchlight. It should be the idea that you walk around a dark room, or not digitalized room, and with a torch you can like reveal a certain digital layer to the real life, right? This was very interesting, and now, but I wanted to point out one specific thing that I really learned about that, because in a way there is, and I gave a talk about this topic 3 years ago here, about the difference between cinema and projection mapping, which is a huge difference. Don't mistake cinema or any other technique of motion graphic with projection mapping. It has very specific approach, projection mapping. But this in specific was the closest we ever did produced, and dramaturgic-wise, that had a relationship to cinema. And this was because these projectors that we moved around in the room only had a narrow field where you could display something. And it was like, what I put it another way, a famous director once said, it's more important what you don't show in a picture as what you show. So there was a kind of natural tension to the thing of, you showed something, and then you got to another place, and you was psychologically asking yourself continuously, where is this person I just saw, or where is this issue I saw? And what I want to point out is that I learned that every technique we touched, including the whole technique of projection mapping, has a certain topic or certain dramaturgic concept embedded in itself. So it is hugely important if you decide to do your work with projection mapping or AI or virtual reality, augmented reality, whatever you like, that there is kind of a preset of content already within the technique you choose, kind of like a sculptor, right? A sculptor also thinks, or the decision which matter he builds takes for his sculpture is like one crucial decision. If you take copper and put it against milk or something, this is like a basic tension of your installation. And also, I took this thinking and tried to ask, okay, projection mapping, what is basically in there? And there's different ways to reveal what and to say a lot of things about it, but let's go for once for this. The basic material is stone and light, and this also, in my sense, strongly refers to the digital and the analog world, because on one side we have the architecture that claims kind of a reality, an everlasting, unquestioned reality, and on the other hand you have the ephemeral light, which even couldn't be really considered as a matter. And with that confrontation, you already have a topic, in my sense, in every projection mapping you do. I could go on longer for this, but this is not my main path, so I quickly go on.